before we take a brief recess, I have some announcements to make. In the absence of a speakers list for Tuesday, October the 1st, and after consultation, the Assembly has before it a letter dated the 26th of September 1957 from the President of the Security Council addressed to the President of the General Assembly relative to the appointment of a Secretary General of the United Nations. The Security Council unanimously decided to recommend to the General Assembly that Mr. Dag Hammarskjöld be appointed as Secretary General of the United Nations for a new 5-year term of office. I would like to suggest that the Assembly agree to proceed to the vote by secret ballot in public rather than in private meeting. I take it that this is the desire of the meeting. I shall now put the recommendation of the Security Council to the General Assembly. The recommendation is that Mr. Dag Hammarskjöld be appointed as Secretary General of the United Nations for a new 5-year term of office. I invite members to cast their votes on the ballot papers which are being distributed.
Venezuelan, Yemen, Yugoslavia, Afghanistan, Albania, Argentina.
The result of the voting is as follows. For Mr. Dag Hammarskjöld, 80 votes, and there is one invalid ballot. In connection with the voting that has just taken place, I would like to read the following letter, which was addressed to the President of the Assembly by the Minister for Foreign Affairs of Israel. The Israel delegation will be Secretary General of the United Nations, and I request Mr. Cordier to be good enough to escort Mr. Hammarskjöld to the podium. Your Excellency, I have the honor to inform you that you have been appointed as Secretary General of the United Nations for a new 5-year term of office. The Secretary General.
In the spring of 1953, I was elected to my present office. I felt that it was my duty to respond to the unexpected call. What I could hope to do was to serve the aims of the United Nations to the limits of my capacity. My only claim now is to have tried to do so. Whether my service has met the needs of this difficult period in the life of the organization, and indeed the world, is for others to decide. Whether the direction I've tried to give to the development of the office of the Secretary General is the best one will have to be judged in the perspective of time. Your decision is in these respects an encouragement for the future and a highly valued expression of confidence. Nobody, I think, can accept the position of Secretary General of the United Nations, knowing what it means, except from a sense of duty. Nobody, however, can serve in that capacity without a sense of gratitude for a task as deeply rewarding as it is exacting, as perennially inspiring as sometimes it may seem discouraging. There are many reasons for such gratitude. Let me mention first the privilege of working on terms of mutual confidence with all the governments and their representatives in order to find ways through the many problems arising in international cooperation. Let me mention also the gratitude the Secretary General owes to his collaborators in the Secretariat from the third basement to the 38th floor. He is fortunate to profit in his work from a team spirit which renders him unfailing support. He can count on dedication, often to thankless jobs necessary for the success of the joint effort. He can trust that the challenge will be met with a deep sense of responsibility, broad knowledge, and a truly international spirit. The significance of what this organization stands for as a venture in progress towards an international community living in peace under the laws of justice transforms works for its aims from a duty into a privilege. Political factors, yet to be overcome or outgrown, may put narrow limits on the progress possible at a particular juncture. We may believe that the United Nations needs basic reforms. We may even share the view held by some that its task ultimately will have to be taken over by a body with a different structure. However, we cannot doubt that the main direction of the work of the United Nations, as determined by the purposes and principles of the Charter, indicates the path which the world must follow in order to preserve the achievements of the past and to lay a basis for a happier future. This is true whatever setbacks may follow. If a mountain wall is once climbed, later failures do not undo the fact that it has been shown that it can be climbed. In this sense, every step forward in the pioneer effort of this organization inevitably widens the scope for the fight for peace. I have tried to present my views on the role of the United Nations in the introduction to this year's report to the General Assembly. Last year, I explained in the Security Council how I feel that I should interpret the responsibilities of the Secretary General. I have little to add here and nothing to change. In the multidimensional world of diplomacy, the Euclidean definition of the straight line as the shortest way between 2 points may not always hold true. I do not believe that the Secretary General should be asked to act by the Member States if no guidance for his action is to be found either in the Charter or in the decisions of the main organs of the United Nations. Within the limits thus set, however, I believe it to be his duty to use his office, and indeed the machinery of the organization, to its utmost capacity and to the full extent permitted at each stage by practical circumstances. On the other hand, I believe that it is in keeping with the philosophy of the Charter that the Secretary General should be expected to act also without such guidance, should this appear to him necessary in order to help in filling any vacuum that may appear in the systems which the Charter and traditional diplomacy provide for the safeguarding of peace and security. I permitted narrow self-interest to distort our efforts. Thank you.
As President of the Assembly, I wish to extend our warm praise. He is surely our supreme international civil servant, dedicated to his task, superbly equipped for it, and self-effacing in its performance. We are not then surprised that he is an apostle of quiet diplomacy, a phrase which, if he did not coin, he has certainly made famous by his assiduous work behind the scenes. In the course of his duties, Mr. Hammarskjöld has visited most countries in the world, in particular China and the states of the Middle East. To refer to his journeys to these countries is to praise him for his patient and indefatigable labors in the cause of tranquility, peace, and justice.
Every nation represented here, whatever the conflicts and differences of international policy, can find in him an attentive listener and a tireless servant of the international community. impartial, patient, vigorous, and determined. The United States extends congratulations to Secretary General Hammarskjöld. We wish him Godspeed in the tasks ahead, and we hope that he will have all that is best in life. Thank you.
Союза поздравить вас, господин Хаммершельд, с избранием на пост генерального секретаря Организации